Hi, I'm Vizzy. I like to make diagrams. Let's cut the bullshit and get right into it. So, these are the levels of racism. As you can see, they build from the inside and form each other. From the middle, you have individual, interpersonal, institutional, and structural. We'll break down each of these to understand them a little better and make it clear what racism is as a whole. First, we have individual racism, which has to do with your own bias and judgment. Now, a lot of people think this is where racism stops, where it's individuals being racist or holding racist beliefs. And fundamentally, the issue with this specific layer is that it all revolves around one question. Do you agree in discriminating towards another race of people? If so, you're racist. It's very cut and dry, it's very simple, and that's the issue. As we'll start seeing with the other layers, being racist is more than just an individual problem. Many people see doing racist things as not necessarily being racist. Maybe saying a slur, supporting a racist politician, maybe even making disparaging remarks or having certain beliefs doesn't necessarily make you racist in some people's eyes. And yes, I will say you can grow and change. Maybe you used to say something disparaging, or maybe even had a belief that's changed. I'm not one to deny that people can change, but I will say that it's additive. You have to take the sum of all the parts because, as you'll see with the other layers, it builds up. Now, usually if somebody does any of these things, because again, according to this question, you're not racist unless you agree with it. If you do any of these things, you're seen as a jerk. You're a mean person. You're an asshole. You're somebody that is being mean individually, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're being racist. You may even get people who say, you're a racist for acknowledging race. I don't see color. Something along those lines. And while this is obviously ridiculous because racism does exist and is obviously a thing, does not make you racist. Who would have thought? Because again, look at the chart. So fundamentally, as a society, we understand that racism as a whole is bad. But the issue arises that we usually think of this as individual racism being bad. While yes, this is true, racism as a whole is an issue, not just individuals being racist. So that's when we get to the next layer of interpersonal racism. These are your actions, your attitudes, your behavior. Now, these are pretty clear to see. They're yelling slurs at a black family. They're telling a Mexican to go back to his country. Things like that are easy examples to say that person is clearly being racist against somebody else. But just like the first layer, people get caught up in this idea that racism exists in a small microcosm, that it is only individuals and how they affect the people around them, when this is clearly not the case. For the next layer, we get to institutional racism, which talks about specific practices and policies that affect people of color as a whole. Now, as you can see, I was a little more specific to mention this only affects people of color. Interpersonal and individual racism is something that any race can do to any other race, but institutional is the point at which we start affecting only a specific group of individuals. And this is the issue. Most Americans don't think that institutional racism still exists. So they think just because segregation isn't something that's legal anymore and that being a racist is clearly already dealt with, somebody's being racist, we'll call them out on it. But those people who denied loans to black Americans for potential financial risk have a long-lasting effect on generational wealth. It's no shock that having money leads to you being able to have more of it. The more you have, the more you can build up, the more resources that you can reach. Lastly, we get into structural racism. Now, structural racism is the belief in that hierarchy, the superiority of one race versus another. Now, this structure influences everything because this structure seeks to exploit and oppress black people and still has an effect till today.